Shivani says, Father, I think here it is still a someone trying to get something, an end to suffering. I think here it is still a someone trying to get something, that something being an end to suffering. Because I noticed recently there was an expectational love, not devotional love. And also the feeling is more not motivated by finding out who I am. Felt to expose this father. Actually, no, still just a belief that the someone exists. Yes. If we can say that there is some motivation in this beginning of this spiritual search for self discovery, the most common motivation is this one: I don't want to suffer anymore. I want to be free. You see? And most spiritual paths are full of practices and concepts and teachings which help us to come to the end of suffering. In satsangs like these, we've come to this directness where we can say that the root of suffering, the cause of suffering, is only the belief in an idea about myself. And how do we give this belief to ideas about ourselves? Only by believing our thoughts. No idea about myself is really about myself, not about my true self. All ideas are about this personal identity. So, anytime we pick up an idea about ourselves, we are picking up some personal identity because all ideas are personal. Even the idea that I still only want freedom from suffering and not self discovery is an idea about who? You see? It's about an entity, a seeming entity which does not exist. You see? So you say that here it is still a someone trying to get something, and what you mean is that you're believing in the existence of this someone, which you yourself said is just a belief that this someone exists. But there is nobody like this. There is nobody called Shivani. There is nobody called Ananta in reality. And we looked and we've looked and we've looked for this somebody and we found that it does not exist. So, how can this non existent nobody come to the end of suffering? The suffering is only the idea, the belief that this nobody actually can come into existence. And as long as we buy into the existence of this somebody, then it is bound to come with some expectations. How should this somebody's life be like? What should he or she have in their life? What should not come? What should come? come, the belief in my existence as a somebody is the root of all suffering. You see? And we've checked so often now, we know that this world and we are finding ourselves to be this nameless, formless one. So upon looking, we don't find this one which wants something or doesn't want something. And we find ourselves to be this nameless, formless one. This is what we find. Because we see that all appearances are appearing to that one which is nameless and formless. Just the awareness itself. This is the comedy of life. We never find the one that we always presume ourselves to be, and the one that we truly find every time we check, we are in constant denial of that. Never find the person. If I tell any of you, let's find the person, you start looking, looking, looking. It's so much hard work, and you still don't find. And yet that gets our allegiance. And that which we do find, we look at all that is appearing, we find that I am here is awareness itself, which is untouched by any appearance. This we want to deny because there is so much belief in the identity. So, satsang is where we come to break this belief in the false identity. And we've become so used to just mental confirmation that even after checking this and finding no person here and finding only this awareness as what you truly are, the mind will come and say, oh, but I still don't know if this is true or not for me. I still don't know if I'm there yet. Am I really seeing this to be true? Yes, this is your experience. Whether the mind confirms it or not, you are the primal witnessing of all appearances. There is nothing that anyone can do about this fact. It is the truth, it is reality. And then Shivani says, Father, it was just when you said earlier about the two reasons for being here in Satsang is usually the devotion or the wanting to know who I am. I felt like neither of these to be the reason, but I know that both of these are true for you. So don't buy this story. And then you say it feels more, there is an underlying annoyance of a feeling of suffering, which feels like the motivation. Yes, yes. This actually also valid, we can add to the valid reasons to be in satsang that we want to come to the end of suffering. And once we want to come to the end of suffering, then that activates the urge for self discovery. To be free from that. And as long as we are not buying some idea about ourselves, we are already free from that. The end of suffering is always right now. As long as we are buying some idea about the future, it is not the end of suffering. The end of future suffering is not what we are talking about. Right now, it is impossible for you to suffer unless you believe a thought about yourself. Do we see this to be true or no? Right now, unless we pick up an idea, we cannot suffer. Even if the body is in pain, we cannot suffer. And nobody can force you to pick up an idea. Nobody can force you. You see? It's just that there seems to be some sort of an addiction to ideas, and that's why we come to satsang to withdraw away from these ideas. And this kind of withdrawal, you can have all kinds of symptoms initially and say, I can't live without these ideas of myself. What will happen to me in the future? You're not telling me about how my life is going to be. There's so much fear here. All of this, all of these are the words of addiction. Once you're free from this habit of consuming thoughts, then you find that there is nobody here that can be hurt by any appearance in this universe. Even by the end of the universe, you cannot be hurt. The end of suffering is not personal. It is the end of the person identity, which is the end of suffering. So the end of suffering is not a personal gift, cannot be received personally, cannot be given personally. It can only be pointed to.